creatives commentating on the culture they live in. Welcome to Culture Nerds, the most culturally relevant podcast that's ever existed. This week, the nerds talk about creative vulnerability. Enjoy.
Let's have a grand time. What?
Oh my god, it was so stupid.
What?
So, I was recording for the last 20 seconds.
Yes!
But I wasn't recording for the last 20 seconds. Because I hadn't hit mute on the fucking mic. So, you know. Now I'm recording though.
You are a trip.
Thanks. Because now I can say again, hey, maybe you should sing the entrance to all the segments.
The intro, you mean?
I'm a mess.
No, you
I'm a mess.
You right. Alright.
That's what 3 days of moving does to you. You're awful.
Hell. No, moving is horrible.
Yeah. That's why nobody wants to help you.
That's the damn truth. That's why you always gotta pay somebody.
Yeah, I know.
And even they don't want to help you.
No, they don't.
And it's like, bitch, that's your job. Now pick up this box and move.
Oh, man.
Oh, Lord.
They hate it.
They do.
They hate it.
They do. The guys that I hired, they were speaking a whole nother language. And I was like, I don't know if you're cussing me out or what, but like, I organized everything. Just go. Just pack it into the truck.
Oh, my God.
Okay.
All right. Well, Joel Gondo, the ad-lib alien, back in the house for, I don't know, whatever episode this is. Who knows?
Oh, no.
Did that feel good or was that awful?
No.
I didn't
wasn't
hate it.
expecting
I didn't hate it at all.
No.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll bring it back and, you know, Rico it later or whatever.
Okay, can you remind me, what is Rico again?
You don't remember Rico? Oh my God. Okay.
Refine?
Refine,
Invent?
invent, connect, and own.
I do remember!
Yeah, of course you do. Of course you do.
Yo, okay, and then we'll get on to this episode. For some weird fucking reason, in the middle of the night, as I'm about to go to sleep, I remembered a meal. Main idea, example, analysis, and link. You remember that?
I don't remember meal. When did they? Who?
When they were teaching us how to write, like, papers.
I don't think that they might have like introduced that like
Later.
after my class, because I don't remember meal at all, like whatsoever. But Rico was it was drilled.
Yeah.
It was everywhere.
Yeah.
It was like they had like signs up that like said Rico. Like it was.
I don't remember the Rico signs.
It was crazy. It was all over the place. You couldn't get away from it.
They did really well.
Yeah.
I remember Rico, I remember Neil.
There you go. They know how to drill
They're good teachers.
an acronym into you. For sure. They're like, learn this. Learn it.
That and fucking Silent Coyote.
Oh my gosh. Silent Coyote. Here's the thing. Our whole audience is nothing but BAA alums. Our whole audience, because who gets any of these references? No one gets these references.
No.
They don't know what we're talking about.
No. And you're like, what are these people? Alright. So in today's episode, we'll be talking about vulnerability while you're creating. Okay, so. I like doing that.
I guess my vulnerability is always just my inner critic going like, you think this is so dope and they're gonna hate it.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's always just like, it feels embarrassing to like show people like, I really want you to love this so much. Oh, you hate it. Like it's.
But no one's ever come up to you and said that, right?
No, but it never goes away for some reason. You know what I mean? Like no matter how, I've had people all the time come up to me and say things like, oh my God, how did you remember all of those words? I could never.
That is a common question, yes.
And they say that and I go, what?
Mm-hmm.
That's not even the hardest part. Like, that's not even talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So in those moments, I have the perspective of just like always remembering that without you telling them, the audience didn't notice.
Mm-hmm.
Is so freeing from that sort of scary, like, oh, I'm gonna get on stage and, you know, they might not like it or whatever.
Yeah.
It's weird because, like, I've never had that on stage.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been, like, before and after.
Yes.
And I'm finding, like, the more and more I become more present, I feel better, like, anxiety-wise.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that works into it as sort of, like, this weird expectation of it coming, and then the after... afterwards where you get that feedback.
Yeah.
Those are really the times where my vulnerability, like, gets really scared of, like, oh, they're not gonna like it.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I'm the same way. I feel very vulnerable when it's like telling someone, like, hey, come to my show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or what's more frightening for me is when I'm actually on stage. And it's going to sound really weird. Okay, so just prepare for this.
No judgment.
Thank you.
Safe space.
Thank you. It's the letting go completely and allowing myself to feel everything fully. Because there's something, for me, I find it to be a very strange experience, although it is very cool.
Yeah.
But I find it to be a very strange experience that I'm able to switch. Do you know what I mean? Like, you do all that work.
Yeah.
No shit, right? Like, you do all that work for that moment, but the ability to do it so instantaneously and allowing myself to just feel everything and allowing everyone to see that,
Yeah.
that makes me feel uncomfortable. Those are the moments of vulnerability that I'm like, I know this is my job and this is what you're paying for, but just, like, give me a second.
Yeah.
Until I can, like, get into it.
Okay. That's interesting.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I can see why that would be something that affects you, because I feel like you respond to people, like you were saying in an earlier episode, that you sort of respond to people in this way. It was like, oh yeah, no, I'll talk to you, but, like, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, God got me. You know what I mean?
That's
So,
such a good invitation.
so I think, like, when people are looking at you, you have maybe a very specific, let's say, costume you're trying to present to them, or mask that you like to be like, here's the Jadi you know, you don't need to know anymore. You know what I mean? But when you're on stage, it's like all these people are looking at you, and you're struggling to put down the mask and actually feel what you're feling in the character.
Oh my God, I think I just had a therapy session.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Yeah.
I very much have the opposite response on stage. I'm very much a look at me. Look at me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I want you to see what I did and look and, like, love it, and that means you love me too. You know what I mean? So when I'm on stage, all I can really focus on is, like, the worst I ever do on stage is when I'm thinking I'm actually on stage.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Like, when I'm, like, going, like, oh, there's an audience there and this, and then the line's coming, and that's always the worst part. When I just go, okay, cool, I know this.
Mm-hmm.
That's why a lot of the times when I'm like learning lines or blocking or anything like that, I try to do my best to like get an idea of what's happening, of what's going down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very much like not I'm going to say the line exactly how it was written. I'm going to say the line, you know, I might flub a punctuation here and there.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that in general it feels more natural to me to like get it into my bones first.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can like add additional characterizations and all this kind of other stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like then I can move around the stage naturally as opposed to being like, okay, the blocking is over here and da da da. Like
Yeah.
I'm always attaching blocking to a very particular motivation. So like if a director says to me like, oh, go over there, I'm like, okay, I know you told me to go over there, but why the hell am I going over there?
Yeah.
And then there's that process of like, oh, I want to get the glass or whatever it is.
Yeah, it works itself out.
Yeah. But I very much like want people looking at me. Like in that situation. So it's like the only thing that I'm worried about is just like, oh, I gotta do a good job. So like when somebody like maybe misses a line and I can't save them, or like I miss a line and I'm just like, oh man, in the middle of it, like it feels just like this heat of eyes on you, and you're just like, man, they're gonna notice. You know how often I've gotten off stage and just been like, oh, they're gonna tell me about that time that I like missed that thing, and people come up, you did a great job, good job, and I was like, oh, nobody brought it up. But then we go backstage and get the notes and fucking get torn up. Get torn up.
Oh, those fucking notes. Yes. For me, it's like, I do have that feeling of like, look at me, those moments. But for me, it's more like, once I've gotten into the groove of it. Have you been able to get on stage and be the character already? Or does it take you some time?
It's a direct, I call it my curtain switch. I stay on one side of the curtain. I'm not that character.
Yeah.
I don't do that thing that some actors do where it's just like method. You're constantly in the character and everything like that. I think it would deplete me. Does that make sense? Like, it's so white hot when I step through and I'm just like, I'm this person, I'm doing that, and I'm doing it now.
See, I think I'm a method actor because even though I don't want to interact backstage as my character, I don't like being thrown off the train of thought. So for
sense.
me, it's like once I'm in it, and I think that's where the vulnerability comes in, like that problem, because it's one of those like, ¿cómo te explico? For me, sometimes if I've done a really good job of doing the work, then I can do that curtain switch that you're talking about. But sometimes, regardless if I do the work or not, it takes me a little bit to get comfortable in the space.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. If you guys hear a little pitter patter, a little nail against floor, apologies. Just know that that's a cute bunny running around the room.
She's so cute, guys. She's so cute.
So every time you hear that, just know Buttercup is moving around the room. I didn't want to like corner her and like not let her run around, but so hopefully that isn't annoying. But remember, cute, adorable bunny attached to that noise. So you gotta love it. Anyways, sorry about that, Jadira. Buttercup, stop it.
She's laying down now. I just feel like we had to address that because it would have been awkward.
No, I was.
5 minutes go by.
No, I was for sure waiting for you to like, kind of close it out for me to be like,
And
Guys, I understand you hear it in the background, but
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes for me, regardless if I do the work or not, it takes me a bit to like feel comfortable and let the anxiety go and just allow things to happen, especially if I'm in an open space, which I've had a lot of performances where it's either outside or it's in a room, and like the not having the audience in the dark.
Yeah.
It fucks with me. It like.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I can't.
Okay, so so lit audiences. Can you not stop yourself from looking in them in the eye?
Kind of.
Okay.
Kind of. So
Okay.
it's like it's one of it's helpful when you have a monologue that you have to deliver.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm gonna look you in the eyes because
Yeah.
you that person I'm talking about,
Yeah.
or two. But
Do you find yourself looking for the face that maybe isn't enjoying it as much?
nope.
Oh
I see
no.
them and I go right up.
Oh, okay. So you skip them.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I completely skip. I have to look at the wall
Yeah.
or a point in like the chair or like over somebody's
Like, okay,
head.
you look past
Yes,
everybody.
I
You
look
just
past.
go. Yeah.
Because it messes me up and it brings me back. Because it's a very trippy thing, acting, right?
Yes.
It's very trippy
Yes.
for me. And I don't think I've fully accepted the experience yet.
Wait, why?
Even though I've done it for years. Because it's like, have you ever been performing and you're like in the middle of it? Your character's going, you're remembering your lines, you're ad-libbing, whatever. And then you catch someone, either regardless if they're into it or not, but you just see a face and you and the audience member lock eyes, and for a split second you forget that imaginary world you and your ensemble have created, and you're back in the theater space, and it's like, oh holy shit, I'm here. Alright, no, gotta go back. I need you to retreat back into your imagination. That's never happened to you?
Retreat back
crazy.
into
I
imagine.
feel like
No,
I sound
you don't sound
crazy.
crazy. You don't sound crazy. You don't sound crazy at all. There's definitely been times like that. I don't know if we have the same triggers, but I think yeah, I've had moments like that where I'm like, oh, okay, why are you can't look at the audience? What if the audience saw you look at them, and like, you know, you get stuck in your head doing like a weird like.
Yeah.
And it's usually just, again, for me, it's they don't know.
No.
They're not gonna notice.
No.
I know I'm gonna get roasted by my teachers when I get these notes, but they're not gonna notice. So it kind of puts me back in that space of like, oh, it's okay. And there have been times where like even me, I think what's funny is me as an actor and an audience member, I can see those things.
Of course.
Like I absolutely can see those things, and like I'm so compassionate about it. Like I don't ever see that and go, yeah, look at him, he sucks. You know what I mean? Like I've never like had that thing. I've always just been like, oh man, you hate to see it. I really feel for you.
Yeah.
But you hate to see it. Man. God.
When you know they're trying to recover.
Yes.
Oh, that hurts.
Yes,
me
it hurts me deep inside. Like,
because you know what it feels
yeah, exactly. I know exactly what it feels like. And you're like the panic behind just, oh my God. And like once you forget the line, the panic sets in, which makes it absolutely impossible for you to even remember where in the scene you are.
Yep.
Let alone what line is next.
Yep.
So that's why like whenever I memorize, that's why I like doing scenes like over and over and over again. One, because it gets into your bones. That rehearsal gets into your bones. You get like that body language. But it's also because like there's these little bits that like people add into a scene or do differently that you can respond to that also have this beautiful way of like cementing their lines in your head, right? So like whenever I'm doing a scene and you like, let's say you forgot your next line, in my mind I just went through the carousel of the billions of times I've seen you do it. And now I'm going, this is your next line. So it's a form of saving my actor partners, my acting partners, because doing it over and over again not only allows me to learn my lines, I also get a real good sense of your lines and your motivation and why you're doing something. Yeah. Because there is that back and forth in that dance. I remember we were doing the last play that we did with the Cena Latina. Were you a part of it?
No, I was your... If we're talking about the one that happened last year, I was your projection person.
What was... I don't even remember the name. It was something about suicide in spring. No.
You did the Angels one.
I did the Angels one?
That was last year.
No. I'm talking about the one that we did where it was, I don't remember the name in Spanish, but it was something like Suicide in Spring. It was like about a mental institution and like, you know, the lovers that came and blah blah blah, all that. Yeah. So yes. Something like that. But Inez and no, it was
Olden?
Yeah, I think it was Olden. Yeah. So they're, you know, they're doing the scene, and I started to see this real back and forth with the scene that they were doing, where it was like Inez would push, her character would like push, and then the other actor would pull. And then I saw the switch. I would see like the switch in the scenes where the male actor would push and she would have to back up. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it really gave... I don't know why watching that scene really gave me that like idea of acting as this sort of stage dance of just the back and forth. Because it really was one of those things where at first when I read the scene, I was like... I don't know, like it seemed inconsistent. Do you know what I mean? Okay. It seemed like, wait, you want to leave but you're going to stay, but you want to leave but you want to stay type of thing. Yeah. But then seeing someone embody it added just that nuance of like, oh, okay, like she really wants to get something across to him, and that's when she, you know, pushes. And then when she pulls away, she's like, oh, he's, you know, going too high or being too loud or whatever, and that makes her pull away. So that sort of embodying doesn't translate always when you're just reading the scene.
It doesn't, yeah. Especially when it's not your characters. Like when it's not your scene that you have to like really break down to understand. Yeah. It can be difficult. For me, I remember so I have this memory.
Go.
Of a show that I was doing Blood Wedding, and I'm in the scene with two other people. I'm not gonna get specific, so they don't know who they are in case they listen.
Nice.
And one of them forgets their line, and I start panicking, right? Because it's one of those like I forget. It was like it was the beginning of the show. And I had to do, I don't know if you've ever done this, where you can kind of split screen things, and so like you're still here and you're still listening to what's going on, but you know because you've memorized the show so much that they jumped. So you kind of, like what I did was like imagine the script on the other side. So I'm trying to be engaged, and I'm also imagining the script right in front of me, and I'm like, where's this motherfucker at on the page? Like, I need to find where I'm at on the page because I can't. I think think it was like one of our exits depended on when a certain line was said or something like that, so you can't leave ahead of time.
Oh, yeah.
You know those situations.
Yeah.
My dude, that by far for me was like the worst. Because with anybody else, you can kind of like pick up. Like how you were saying, you can kind of like save them, you can throw them a line, whatever.
Yeah.
But for that one, it was like, bro, like you, like if I don't remember where we are, and it was mostly us two, and the third person was kind of like interjecting here and there, but you can't trip her either.
Damn. Yeah, those exit lines are they're real important. That one of the reasons why I sort of try and memorize other people's lines too is because that's kind of my biggest panic is somebody losing a line or jumping, the scene completely and me being unable to be like, wait, where are we? What are we talking about? What's happening?
Yeah.
Like, that absolutely drops me into that space of like, oh, we're doing theater right now. Yeah. Okay, here's an interesting question. Which is more vulnerable?
What?
Being the person in the scene who okay, is it worse to do a monologue, 2-person scene, or 3-person scene where you're like the third person that really isn't doing a ton? Or like really isn't saying a ton? Do you prefer saying a ton in a scene or being more of a background character type of thing?
That's very interesting. I hope this doesn't come off conceited, but I'm not used to being the person in the background.
God damn, okay.
I'm sorry.
Shit, you got a lot of credits apparently.
No, it's just... Anyways, so...
Oh,
I guess for me, what's more vulnerable?
Yeah, just what like feels the most uncomfortable, I guess.
I think the most uncomfortable would be a monologue.
Yeah.
Because even though I can fudge and recover and help myself get out of it, but it feels like you're by yourself. So if you don't have the energy, if you're not emoting enough, then you could quickly lose people.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're working in a scene with at least one other person, there's someone to feed off of.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you can kind of like gauge where things are going based on what you're getting. But if you're the only one there, it's kind of hard to gauge if like you kind of suck or not. You know what I mean? Or like, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. Here's the weird thing for me is the most uncomfortable place for me probably to be on stage is to be character 3 who really doesn't have a ton to do.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I have a real difficult time with like nothing acting. Does that make sense? You know how like when you're just in the scene and you're just like, oh, I'm just a part of this world.
Yeah.
Because there's every now and again, and it happened. I think you referenced the Angel play that we did.
Yeah.
It happened during that play because there are huge scenes where I'm on stage.
Yeah.
Right. Remember that was the one where like we were on stage the whole time.
Yeah.
So.
You really were.
We're on stage and a whole other scene is happening. Whole completely other scene. And we're watching it, and after a while I start to forget I'm not one of the audience members. So I'm it's so weird. Like, I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but if you've been in a scene for long enough and you're just like, oh, it feels like I'm just watching rehearsal. It feels like I'm just watching rehearsal, so after a while I go like, oh shit, there's like an audience. We're like doing it right now. I should probably be paying attention to what actual lines they're saying, so I know when to come in.
You're at work.
Yeah.
You're working.
But that's why, and the thing is like, it feels the most awkward and it feels the most vulnerable to fake listen.
Really?
Yes. Because I don't know what fake listening is supposed to look like. Do you know what I mean?
It's practice. I do it all the time in real life.
I know, I listen all the time, but it's just, okay, you know how when people say like, oh, you're photogenic or whatever.
Yeah.
People who are photogenic just don't get weird when the camera turns on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know how people, we've always had cameras, but people get so weird. As soon as you're like, take a picture, you're like,
that's me.
You're like, that's not how you smile. Like, you smile so normally any other time.
And then the camera.
Just do a smile.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what it's like for me in that sense.
That makes sense.
So
Okay.
it's like, I don't know. It just brings out that weird awkwardness of like, how do I listen? Do my hands go up when I listen? You know what I mean? Like, you're like, what do I do? And it, I could.
How do I behave?
And
like a human.
No, but it's weird because every now and again, like, this is something that people say to me all the time.
What?
I don't listen with my eyes.
What do you listen with?
I listen with my ears. No, but you know how people when somebody's talking to you, they want you to like, I want to make eye contact, I want to connect, I want to blah blah blah, right?
Yes.
When I'm at work, especially when I'm at work, and I'm like doing something and like somebody's like coming to the office to like just tell me, oh, this happened or whatever, like I'm trying to do two things at once. And especially, I hate it when somebody, like, sees that I'm doing something else.
Yeah.
And I've provided you... I'd be like, yeah, no, tell me what's going on, blah, blah, blah. Like, I've provided you enough space to, like, come in, tell me what's happening. But they're like... But you're, like, not looking at me. And I was like, I can hear you. Right now, you need this. Right now, you need the ears on the side of my head. So, if anything... I'm turning my head this way so my ears can better hear you.
Smart.
You know what I mean? Yes, I am a shit disturber. I'm sorry. It's
okay.
who I've always been. But that's like one of those sort of like social norms or like things that you do. Most people do that.
Yeah.
So when I don't do it, people get weird about me listening. So like little things like that give me anxiety of like, do you nod your head twice? Or like, is it 4 times? Or what is it? I don't understand. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I wanted to say earlier.
What?
You have your perfect costume for people to see in your everyday. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. I don't. I carry around a wardrobe of costumes. And then I let the people decide, right? I let the people who I'm interacting with decide which one did you want?
Oh.
Did you want party Joe? Did you want calm, cool and collected Joe? Did you want take you on a road trip Joe? What Joe do you want? You know what I mean?
Which Joe do we have here?
Oh, this is podcast Joe, baby. Performing on stage, doing stuff, being weird. Just, okay. So my issue is, it sounds like your issue, especially with being on stage, is being like, oh, I have this like perfectly crafted cosplay costume that like I won a costume contest with, and you guys just want me to show you this one I've only worked on for like a couple weeks. Oh, that's a lot. But for me, it's people in real life are generally like, oh, I want you to wear the friend costume, or you're like my homie, right? Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, cool, I'll put that on, blah blah blah, you know. And then they're just like, wait, why are you wearing the homie costume? You're not my homie. And I'm like, what? Well, now I look like an idiot. Don't I look silly? Okay. So I think for me, it feels a lot more natural to like get on stage and throw on the costume I know I'm supposed to throw on. Do you know what I mean? So like, there is no, I'm not asking the audience, which one do you want?
You're giving it to them.
Right? I'm not in charge of what I'm giving you. I'm just the guy embodying that costume. It's to a certain extent, it's very disattached in the way where weirdly acting and throwing on all these different personas kind of helps you get to a point where you're like, oh, this is my persona, this is what I like. You know what I mean? Like, you start to like sort of see some little things. I remember when in BAA, especially like the first couple years, you would see certain actors and they have these really recognizable gestures. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like everyone had, and the thing is I was always curious and I was always so scared that it was something so cringy and so corny, but I wanted someone to be like, this is the thing you always do. Here's the thing, like you know how they've made compilation videos on YouTube about this stuff where it's like, you know, Harrison Ford always points. You know what I mean? And it's just clips of every single movie. He's just pointing and pointing and pointing. And it's always the same, like, style point. Always the same kind of, like, sassy.
Yeah.
Right? So I always wanted to know what my thing was. Because I would be in the audience. I'd be in rehearsals. And I'd watch actors do it. And I'm like, I've seen you do, like, 4 or 5 different characters. And there's just that one gesture that like it feels like your natural pose, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you fall into it almost as an actor, even when you're doing different characters. I always wanted to know what mine was, and I don't think no one could ever clearly tell me what it was.
I can't either.
Yeah.
Do I have a thing?
No, I can't think of anything right now. I can definitely see that, like, you have like, I can feel your tension rise as curtain call is coming.
Yeah.
Like, I can, like, even backstage, like, between scenes, like, you waiting for the cue, like, I can just, it's palpable. It's just like,
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. It's not like a bad thing. If anything, I'm just like, I want to just be like,
relax.
It's all right. We're gonna be cool. We're gonna be cool. It's gonna be all right. You know what I mean? But I think that works to my sort of extroverted, you know, I'll just throw on whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, like once I'm on stage, like once I cross that curtain, I'm just like, okay, I'm doing this. Yeah. Unless some huge hiccup comes up. You know what I mean? That's why when certain people like feel unprepared to me, I'm just like, man, I am so anxious. And I don't, that's the worst when it's like it's in someone else's hands.
Yep.
Oh my God, group projects? That's always the worst.
Yeah, no, you said something earlier of you almost don't feel like you're in charge of what you present to the audience.
Not as a like just a solely an actor. You know what I mean? Like not like if I were like the director or like something like that, I would. The more ownership I take of it, the more, I don't know, the more like scared I am, the more I feel exposed, almost like, yeah, like it's easy, you know, I make the suggestions in rehearsal, like, hey, let's do it this way, or let's put, you know, like maybe we can tweak it here, or maybe it would look nice if we did it, you know, backwards or whatever.
Yeah.
But I know that if I was actually like directing that play, oh my God, I would feel so worried that like, you know, I would present it and like everyone would just, again, it would be that same exact thing where it's just like, yeah, everybody thinks it sucks. You know what I mean? Like it's just that inner critic of, yeah, they're not gonna like it. This is corny. You should just burn it. Like, it always feels like that. It always feels like, no, you should just burn it. Like, you know how embarrassing it is? Like, I said it in an earlier episode. I have some tracks that I've rapped on that I've, you know, actually done with friends. And if I'm in a really good place, like self-esteem wise and like confidence wise, I'll be like, hey, you want to listen to it? You want to listen to it? Here's the worst. The worst part about presenting anything to another person is that moment where you go, I did this thing. I want you to listen to it. And they're listening to it. And you can't tell whether or not they like it. You know what I mean? Like, they're just listening to it, and there's like no expression, or like they're not like, okay, yeah, like they're not moving around or nothing. You know what I mean? Like, that's always just like, oh, they hate it. You should turn it off. Turn it off. No, they hate. I do it with stuff that isn't even my art, but is just something that I'm kind of endorsing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Where it's like, you know how like you'll go on YouTube or something, and you'll see this video that's just hilarious. You thought it was just so funny, and you want to share it to somebody, and the person you share it to, they watch the whole video, they don't laugh at all, and then you just go, okay, well, I guess I'm not funny. I don't, you know, like it's always catastrophic. It's never like a little bit. It's always like, oh, okay, I made a bad choice with the video. It's never that. It's always, oh, okay, I guess I'm not funny. I got no good sense of humor, and whatever. It's fine. I'll never show a video to anyone again. You know what I mean?
Joe, I just want to give you a hug right now.
It's alright. That's just damage. What are you gonna do?
It's okay. You're fine. You're fine. There we go. Huggies. There we go.
Huggies.
See, I'm the opposite.
Hey.
What?
They don't sponsor us.
Good one.
Cut that.
I'm the opposite. When I'm going on stage, it's not these are, because I'm generating the feelings, it's like, this is me, it's just different mannerisms or whatever. If that makes sense. I feel like I'm not articulating properly.
No. That makes sense. I keep thinking about, you're right, when you generate those feelings, how close to hard on your sleeve do you feel like you are?
When I'm really into it? Like,
no, I mean just like in general, what's like your natural resting
point? Me as a person?
Yeah.
Oh, I hide that shit.
Yeah, you're like really like, it's in the jacket.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like, it's
jacket. It's like the wraparound with.
A straight jacket. It's a straight jacket. Okay.
It's hidden in there.
Okay.
It's like you gotta undo this to get my arms out so I can reach it.
Okay, so it takes a lot of work. Got it.
Basically.
Got it.
I had one person tell me, you have like the Great Walls of China up, because they couldn't understand what my emotions were, and I was like, yep.
You know, people tell me all the time when they're like, oh, you have a wall up or whatever. I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm not going to let you know stuff that, like, maybe I've already let you know and you haven't dealt with it very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I absolutely get that.
I'm the opposite of you, where I feel like, I guess that's where my tension comes from, of when I step out, you're seeing me and my feelings. You're not seeing the character. Where you're like, no, you're seeing the character. And then I asked you about hard on your sleeve. Yeah.
My natural resting point
is,
I think, hard on my sleeve.
Really?
Yeah.
What is that like?
I want to tell people all the things that I'm feeling all the time. And
really?
People do not want to hear it.
Oh.
Because the thing is like, a lot of the times when you see someone, very much like what Mac was saying in the earlier episodes, where like they see you in only that particular space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like they don't really get to see the whole of you. And so I'm sure when you're at work, you're just like, your emotions are like, I'm anxious here, and then I'm down, and then I'm okay, I kind of feel all right, and then something comes in, and I'm stressed all of a sudden. You're going through like a whole thing, right?
Yeah, being human, you know.
Yeah, but I'm sure you didn't just feel like, oh, I can't feel my feelings in front of people. I can't imagine that you just started at that thought.
No.
It had to be at some point you were feeling your feelings in front of people, and you got a response of like, you don't do that. Stop doing that.
Yeah.
So it's,
definitely.
if I wanted to, I would tell you every second. I'm just like, no, I just dipped right there for some reason, and I'll just like talk it all out. But you can't always do that to people.
No.
They'll think you're crazy.
They might. I'm sorry, I'm
All right.
distracted by the bunny.
Everyone's distracted by the bunny.
Buttercup.
Hey, Buttercup.
Yeah, no. So where you wear your heart on your sleeve when you're acting, it's like, ah!
Yeah.
And I'm straight jacket in real life, and then acting wise, I'm like, eh. With moments of, ah! And then I'm done.
Okay, what, has there ever been a time where you've really just felt too scared to even show anyone something that you were working on, or something that you thought was like really?
I think all the time. Like, I mean, I still share it. I still tell people, but I feel like when I first got back into acting in my early 20s, I was very much more enthusiastic, believing that like, oh, if we're friends or we're family, then you'll be just as excited to see this. And then you quickly realize, no, nobody gives a fuck. Just like what Matt was saying about how they only see you in one way. Yeah. So then as the years went by, it was just like, I don't say anything. And then when people end up finding out through word of mouth, they're like, Javita, I spoke to so-and-so. I didn't know you were part of that project. Why didn't you say anything? And it's like, I'm sorry. It's now a habit. So I try. I tell people, hey. But I don't make it a big thing like I used to.
Yeah. I think it's funny because I've had to, in that same way, kind of disattach. Where I'll tell people, and even the podcast, you know, it's something I'm scared to like, you know, put out there, and like things that I say on here, and how are people going to respond, and if somebody hears it and it's just like, I don't want you saying whatever on this platform or whatever. But I'm kind of like, I don't know, I just feel like I'm just going to do it and see kind of what happens. Yeah. And I don't know, it feels better than having my inner critic just constantly be like, oh, it's going to be terrible or whatever.
I know. You know what? F the inner critic. Everybody says it. It's cliche at this point, but it's so flippin' true. Because I remember there were a bunch of performances that I've done where I've gone off stage, even as a stage manager. I remember one of the last shows I stage managed. A couple of friends were like, yeah, that's good. I came to see the show, and I was mortified. I was like, I did not call the show the way it needed to be called. It is horrible. It is. I did the worst job. And they're looking at me like, oh, hi, baby. Oh, you like me? Okay. And they were like, we don't see what you just described. We didn't actually enjoy the show. And I'm like, oh, oops. Where's that glass of wine?
Yeah, no, we for sure are our worst critics.
We really are. And it's sad. We have to stop it, but...
Great transition, because we do have to stop it. We're kind of at time.
Are we at time?
Oh my god, ladies and gentlemen.
Ding, 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 ding.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week.
On Culture Nerds.
Ayy.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed, remember, rate, review, and subscribe. See you next week.